The building at 1234 de la Montagne in Montreal is widely considered one of the city's most haunted locations, largely due to its transition from a Victorian family home to a funeral parlor, and finally into a series of high-profile nightclubs like Club L'Esprit, Club 1234, and the current Yoko Luna. The origins of the haunting. The Galt legacy, built in 1859, the house was later owned by Sir Alexander Tulloch Galt, a father of Confederation. Galt died there in 1893 after a painful battle with throat cancer, and his funeral was held inside the home. The funeral home era, from 1902 to 1970, the building served as the Joseph C. Ray and Brothers Funeral Home. Many believe the energy of the thousands of bodies processed there, including autopsies and cosmetic touch ups, remained long after the business moved. Famous ghost stories. The Faceless Woman, one of the most chilling reports, involves a former club owner who encountered a tall, beautiful woman standing at the bar before the club opened. When she turned around, she allegedly had no face, as if it had been surgically removed. The mutilated ghost in the ladies' room, the basement, formerly the mortuary, is now a women's washroom. Patrons have reported seeing a ghostly woman with a jagged scar running down her chest, appearing like the work of a mortician. The attic jumper. In 2005, a staff member reportedly saw a girl ignore warnings and enter the off-limits attic. Moments later, she was heard screaming hysterically before she dove out of the attic window toward the street, only to be caught by bouncers below. The Singing Girl, a former owner, DJ MC Mario, reported hearing the disembodied voice of a young girl singing and witnessing doors opening and closing on their own. Paranormal interactions. Mozart's Requiem. During a televised paranormal investigation, a medium allegedly communicated with Galt's first wife, who claimed the club's noise was disturbing her daughter's spirit. A deal was struck where the owner would play Mozart every night upon opening to soothe the ghosts. The investigators claimed a table began dancing when Mozart's Requiem was played. Modern day, when the building reopened as Yoko Luna in 2022, staff reportedly brought in religious authorities to perform exorcisms to pacify the spirits before the grand opening. The Legend of the Ghost. The building at 1925 Victoria Avenue was originally a private gentlemen's club where women were officially prohibited. However, members would allegedly sneak female companions into the upper floor bedrooms. According to local lore, one of these women became too attached to a member and was subsequently murdered with an axe on the third floor to silence her. Her spirit is said to still wander the building's upper floors, which are closed to the public. Reported paranormal activity. Staff and visitors have reported numerous spooky occurrences over the years, including a beautiful female apparition who appears in windows and attempts to lure people closer before disappearing. Disembodied voices and strange noises. Flickering lights that turn on and off by themselves. Objects moving on their own, such as decorative vases that have been seen hovering in midair. A blood-like substance seen oozing from light sockets. The site is considered one of Regina's most famous haunted locations and was even featured by the TV series Creepy Canada. You can learn more about local legends by taking a Regina ghost tour. The primary ghost story associated with Aubaird's Le Saint Gabriel in Old Montreal involves the spirit of a little girl who is said to have died in a fire on the premises. The legend claims that a young girl was trapped and died in a fire on the second floor of the building while having a piano lesson with her grandfather. The story alleges that the owner at the time, wealthy fur trader Joseph Frobisher, ordered an arsonist to burn down a competitor's warehouse, but the fire spread unexpectedly and trapped the girl and her grandfather inside. Reported paranormal activity. Ghostly music and laughter. Staff and guests have reported hearing the eerie sound of a child laughing and a piano playing soft music, even though there is no piano in the building. Visual sightings. A small figure of a girl, sometimes described as wearing a royal blue or white dress, has been seen standing in a specific hallway or on the top floor before vanishing when approached. Unexplained phenomena. Other reported incidents include objects moving on their own, cold spots, doors opening unilaterally, and the sensation of an unseen presence. Historical context. While the inn, built in 1688, certainly has a long history, historical research suggests the specific story of the girl and her grandfather's death in an arson fire is likely a myth. Records indicate the only significant fire on the site occurred in 1768, decades before the alleged events involving Joseph Frobisher and his family took place. Nevertheless, the legend and the building's spooky atmosphere make it a popular spot for ghost tours. You can learn more about the history and hauntings on the While Cathedral Château Frontenac isn't a single place, Quebec City is home to two very famous, and spooky, historical landmarks with their own eerie legends, the Fairmont Le Château Frontenac and the Cathedral of the Holy Trinity. The Ghosts of Fairmont Le Château Frontenac. The world's most photographed hotel has a few residents who never checked out. The Governor's Eternal Weight. The most famous spirit is Louis de Buade, Count of Frontenac, the 17th century governor of New France. Legend says his heart was sent to his fiancée in France but returned to Quebec in grief. He is often seen wandering the halls in period attire, still searching for his lost love. The Woman in White. Many guests report waking up to a woman in a white nightgown standing by their bed or even trying to climb in with them. The Trapped Maid. Staff and guests on the 6th floor, often cited as the most haunted, have reported hearing screams from a maid who allegedly died after becoming trapped in a closet decades ago. The Hauntings of the Cathedral of the Holy Trinity. Located nearby, this 1804 cathedral has its own chilling history. The Buried Nun. The church is said to be haunted by a nun named Iris Dillis. Legend holds she suffered from narcolepsy and was accidentally buried alive on the grounds in 1830. The Musical Spirit. Visitors often hear the organ playing by itself when the church is empty. The Floating Lady. A woman has been seen floating along the cathedral's balcony, often accompanied by the sound of weeping. Some say placing a toy on the organ can quiet her cries. Yes, the Cathedral of the Holy Trinity in Quebec City has several popular ghost stories and is considered one of the most haunted places in the province. The main legend involves a grieving mother, and the site is known for numerous unexplained phenomena, including the organ playing by itself. The Ghost Story. The central legend of the cathedral revolves around a woman who is said to haunt the premises in mourning. The mother's grief. One version of the story claims the cathedral, built in 1804, was constructed over the grave of a baby, and the baby's mother now haunts the church, wailing in anguish. Buried alive nun. A variation of the legend identifies the ghost as a 19th-century nun named Iris Dillas, who suffered from narcolepsy and was accidentally buried alive on the church grounds during a cholera outbreak. Her restless spirit is said to be unable to find peace. Alleged paranormal activity. Several unexplained occurrences have been reported by churchgoers and staff over the years. The self-playing organ. It is a common claim that the large, old organ sometimes plays by itself when no one is around, especially after hours. Wails and footsteps. Organists practicing alone have reportedly heard a woman screaming and crying, or the sound of footsteps when the cathedral is empty. The woman in white. Many visitors and staff have claimed to see a lady in white floating on the church balcony. Notably, Queen Elizabeth II reportedly witnessed a mysterious woman in white standing in the royal box during her visit in 1964. The toy solution. Organists have discovered that placing a toy on the organ seems to appease the spirit, allowing them to practice in peace without hearing the crying or experiencing the chills. For those interested in the history of crime and ghost stories in the area, you can learn more through tours like the Ghost Tours of Quebec or Les Promenades Fantomies that explore haunted sites around Old Quebec. Dark Hall in Regina is widely considered one of the city's most haunted locations, primarily due to the lingering presence of its namesake, Francis Nicholson Dark. The ghost of Francis Dark. Francis Dark was a former mayor of Regina and a major philanthropist who donated the seed money for the hall. His attachment to the building was so deep that his funeral was held there in 1940, and he lay in state within its walls. Sightings. Many witnesses report seeing a ghostly man dressed in early 20th century clothing wandering the halls. The audience member. He is frequently spotted sitting in the audience, sometimes in his former personal seat to enjoy performances. The disappearing act. According to legend, he always vanishes the moment the stage curtains close. The crying children. In addition to Dark himself, there are reports of the sounds of children crying throughout the building. These spirits are believed to be students who were quarantined in the hall during a typhoid epidemic and passed away there. Other paranormal reports. The falling pilot. During World War II, the building was used by the British Commonwealth Air Training Plan. It is rumored that a young airman fell to his death from the tower during a party, and some believe he remains as a spirit. General activity. Performers and staff have reported various unexplainable occurrences, making it a regular stop for Fort Battleford in Battleford. Ghost story. Fort Battleford in Battleford, Saskatchewan, is well known for its haunted history and offers popular ghost tours detailing various supernatural occurrences. Fort Battleford Ghost Stories. Reports from visitors and staff over the years have contributed to the fort's reputation as a haunted location, with many unexplained events centered around its historic buildings. Apparition sightings. There have been multiple sightings of apparitions on the grounds and within the buildings. Moving objects and slamming doors. Staff have reported items being moved overnight when no one was present, as well as doors slamming shut on their own. The assistant surgeon's ghost. The officers' quarters building is said to be haunted by the long-dead assistant surgeon. Playful spirits. The second floor of the commanding officer's residence is another hotspot for activity, where spirits are said to play with the environment. The site hosts annual, haunted history, or ghost walk events, which are lantern-lit guided tours designed to share these chilling tales and give visitors a spine-tingling experience of the fort after dark. You can check the Parks Canada website or the Discover Saskatoon events calendar for information on upcoming tour dates and times. Fort San, a former tuberculosis sanatorium in Fort Qu'Appelle, Saskatchewan, is widely considered one of Canada's most haunted locations. Operating from 1917 to 1971, it witnessed thousands of deaths from TB, creating a dark history that fuels its many ghost stories. Commonly reported paranormal occurrences and legends include the nurse apparition. One of the most famous sightings involves the ghost of a nurse, who has reportedly been captured on video. The nurse with the tray. Witnesses have described seeing a nurse walking down hallways or through rooms carrying a tray of medical supplies, only to vanish into thin air. The underground morgue. During its time as a cadet summer training center in the 1990s, cadets often slept in barracks located directly over the former morgue, leading to frequent reports of heavy energy and eerie feelings. Peepers. Modern paranormal investigators and visitors have described peeper ghosts, entities that briefly peek around corners or through doorways and disappear when pursued. Unexplained sounds and movements. Reports include the sound of wheelchairs moving in empty corridors, doors opening and closing on their own, and showers mysteriously turning on. Unmarked grave rumors. Local legend long suggested the hills behind the sanatorium contained up to 1,000 unmarked graves, though historical records indicate most patients were returned to their families or buried in the Grey Nuns Mother House in Ville-Marie, Montreal, currently a Concordia University student residence, is a well-known haunted landmark in the city. The ghost stories primarily stem from a tragic 1918 fire that killed over 50 children in an orphanage located on the top floor, and the presence of a sealed crypt containing the remains of nearly 300 people, mostly nuns who died of infectious diseases. Key haunting legends. The orphan ghosts. The most prevalent stories involve the spirits of the children who perished in the Valentine's Day fire in 1918. Screams and crying. Students and others have reported hearing the sounds of children crying, running, and playing on the top floors where the orphanage was located. Nightmares and visions. Some students residing in the building have reported experiencing recurring nightmares and bizarre visions of burnt children, with one student reportedly moving out due to the constant disturbances. Imaginary friends. Children in an on-site daycare have reportedly shared stories of the same imaginary friend, described as a man with tattered clothing and burnt flesh. The crypt. The building's basement contains a sealed crypt with the remains of 276 individuals, many of whom were nuns who died of contagious diseases like typhus during the 1847 famine epidemic. Whispers and eerie feelings. While the crypt is off limits to students, who can only view it through a locked door window, many residents report feeling an eerie presence or hearing whispers in the residence halls after midnight, attributing the feeling to sleeping above a cemetery. The Murderer's Cross. An old, once blood red, cross stands on the property grounds. Legend has it that it marks the burial site of Jean-Baptiste Goyer, a man convicted of murder in the 18th century who was tortured and executed, with his body buried at a crossroads as a warning to others. His body is believed to still be buried somewhere beneath the modern street, adding another layer to the site's dark history. Today, the building on 1190 Guy Street is considered one of Montreal's most haunted landmarks, with many students and visitors sharing paranormal experiences. More historical information about the site and the Grey Nun's work is available on the Concordia University website and through the Parks Canada website for the National Historic Site. The Hopkins Dining Parlor in Moose Jaw is widely believed to be haunted by the ghost of its original mistress, Minnie Hopkins. Many locals and visitors share stories of paranormal activity, and the restaurant was even featured as a paranormal hotspot on a 2002 episode of the TV series Creepy Canada. The Ghost Story. The building was originally built as a home for Edward and Minnie Hopkins in the early 1900s. Minnie was very fond of her mansion, and the legend is that she never truly left. She is said to dislike the serving of spirits, alcohol, in her former home and makes her displeasure known in various ways. Reported occurrences. Staff and patrons have reported numerous unexplained incidents over the years. Banging doors and cabinet doors opening and closing on their own. Pots and pans clattering or flying around in the kitchen. Candles levitating and other objects moving on their own. An invisible presence poking staff members in the ribs. The appearance of a young girl in a white dress on the balcony. A general feeling of a unique energy or presence in the historic home. The restaurant even offers tours where guests can learn about the history and haunted tales, and some diners have reported feeling a distinct atmosphere in the house. The general consensus is that while the occurrences can be spooky, the ghost of Minnie is a friendly ghost. Mount Royal Cemetery in Montreal is considered one of the city's most haunted locations, with ghost stories and reports of paranormal activity circulating for years. Legends include sightings of an Algonquian warrior and a spirit that followed a visitor home. Key ghost stories and legends. The Algonquian warrior. The most famous ghost is said to be an Algonquian warrior, whose spirit has been seen near the cliffs overlooking the Chameleon Hound Lookout, which borders the cemetery. There is speculation that he may be a guardian spirit or linked to older indigenous burial sites on the mountain. The anonymous letter. An anonymous former high school student reported being followed home by a spirit after visiting the cemetery. The student was later woken by a ghostly male figure quietly uttering their name, a terrifying experience that was widely reported as a paranormal encounter. Paranormal activity. Ghost hunters and paranormal investigators frequently visit the cemetery and have reported a range of unexplained phenomena, including hearing disembodied noises, such as a little girl giggling or wood creaking, seeing shadowy figures, capturing blurry images, and feeling a general sense of unease. The Caribert Courthouse, a designated municipal heritage site in Saskatchewan, is widely regarded as one of the most haunted buildings in the province. The legend of the haunted skull. The most famous ghost story centers on a human skull that was kept in the basement evidence vault for over 60 years. The murder. The skull belonged to James Scotty McLaughlin, who was killed in 1928 by John Schumacher during an argument on a farm near Beachy. The trial. The skull was used as evidence during the 1931 murder trial to show the severity of the blow that killed McLaughlin. The haunting. For decades, residents and staff reported hearing footsteps and seeing apparitions believed to be Scotty's restless spirit searching for his missing head. The skull was finally interred with the rest of his remains in 1996, but reports of paranormal activity have continued. Reported paranormal activity. Staff and visitors to the building, which now houses municipal offices and a museum, have reported several eerie occurrences. Auditory phenomena. Footsteps are frequently heard ascending the stairs toward the courtroom in the early morning hours, and whispering voices are often heard in empty rooms. Poltergeist activity. In 2021, a museum student reported that after cleaning a room, an umbrella moved from its stand to underneath the covers of a bed, and a lump appeared in the bed as if someone were lying there. Apparitions and orbs. Paranormal investigators have captured footage of fuzzy or fog-like objects moving near staircases. Angry spirits. Some believe the original jail cells in the basement hold angry spirits or hostile energy left over from historical trials. The identity of the ghost. While many attribute the hauntings to Scotty McLaughlin, paranormal investigators once made contact with a spirit who identified himself as Lucky. This spirit was later revealed to be Robert Hanbidge, a former mayor of Caribert and the 12th Lieutenant Governor of Saskatchewan. The Mar residence, built in 1884, is the oldest house in Saskatoon still standing on its original site. While it is a celebrated National Historic Site, it is also famously known as one of the city's most haunted locations, largely due to its history as a field hospital during the 1885 Northwest Rebellion. The resident spirits. Local lore and staff reports suggest the house is home to at least two distinct spirits. The angry man in the basement, often described as a cranky or aggressive male spirit, this entity is notorious for harassing female visitors and staff. He is known to shout, whisper insults, or make rude remarks to women who enter his space. Some believe he may be a soldier who died when the home was used as a hospital. The child in the window. Many witnesses have reported seeing the face of a child peering out from the home's front window. This apparition is sometimes described as a strange light or orb that contains the child's features. The man with white gloves. A less frequent but notable report involves a quiet man wearing white gloves, seen working at an antique desk displayed within the home. Paranormal activity. Visitors and volunteers have recounted several unexplained phenomena over the years. Auditory hauntings. Disembodied voices, including the sounds of children laughing or crying, have been reported in the upstairs bedrooms. Shadowy figures. Witnesses have claimed to see figures walking through the house at night after the museum has closed. Unexplained lights. Lights are said to turn on and off on their own, particularly in the basement area. The Moosehead Inn at Kenosi Lake, which permanently closed after a fire in September 2021, was widely known for its ghost stories. The inn was even featured in the book Haunted Saskatchewan and on the APTN show The Other Side. The Legend of Archie. The primary ghost story revolves around a former owner, Archie Grandison. After current owner Dale Orsted bought the inn in 1990, strange occurrences began, including objects like glasses and ashtrays disappearing, loud bangs and crashes heard at night, doors opening and slamming shut on their own. Following a séance, a medium identified 3 spirits, one of whom was believed to be Archie. The activity reportedly stopped completely after Orsted agreed to look after Archie's widow, Ethel, and she subsequently passed away in spring 1999. Paranormal investigations. The inn's reputation as a haunted spot continued for years, attracting paranormal enthusiasts. The show The Other Side filmed an investigation at the inn in September 2012. Utilizing equipment like a spirit box to attempt communication with the spirits. Despite the previous owner's account of the activity stopping, some psychics remained convinced the inn was still haunted. The Plains of Abraham in Quebec City is considered one of Canada's most haunted locations due to its bloody history as the site of the pivotal 1759 Battle of the Plains of Abraham, where British and French forces clashed during the 7 Years' War. Common ghost stories and sightings. Spectral soldiers. Visitors frequently report seeing apparitions of soldiers wandering the old battlefield, particularly near the entrance to Tunnel 1 and the barracks. Some accounts describe these spirits as searching for fallen comrades or even missing body parts. Auditory and sensory hauntings. Many people claim to hear the booming sounds of cannon fire and musket shots at night, even though the city does not fire cannons during these hours. Ghostly sightings are often accompanied by the smell of sulfur or gunpowder. The spirit of La Carivo, the ghost of Marie-Joseph Carivo, a famous figure in Quebecois folklore, is said to haunt the area. Convicted of murdering her husband in 1763, she was hanged on the Plains of Abraham, and her body was famously displayed in an iron cage as a warning to the public. Ghost tours and activities. For those looking to experience these legends firsthand, several tours are available. Ghoulish Walks. The Plains of Abraham Museum offers guided lantern tours where costumed guides share tales of public hangings, military discipline, and dark legends. Halloween programming. Every October and November, the National Battlefields Commission hosts specialized Month of the Dead activities, including haunted tower experiences and historical ghost stories. Saskatchewan Hospital in North Battleford. The Saskatchewan Hospital in North Battleford, SHNB, a psychiatric facility with over a century of history, is the subject of several eerie urban legends and reported hauntings. The legend of the hanging tree. One of the most prominent local myths involves a large tree near the hospital entrance. According to various versions of the story, one legend claims a patient escaped and died by suicide on the tree, and the area remains spooky at night. The couple, A more sensationalized urban legend describes a couple parked under the tree. The girl woke to hear scratching on the roof, only to find her boyfriend hanging above the car with his toenails scraping the metal. Haunted locations on the grounds. The original 1913 complex, which has since been replaced by a modern facility, was known for its heavy atmosphere. The old morgue, a former morgue and autopsy room, featuring 4 wooden body drawers marked with the command "close this door," is often cited as a focal point for ghost stories. Mass cemeteries. The site contains 3 separate graveyards with hundreds of unmarked graves of former patients, some dating back to the hospital's earliest years when treatments like LSD and early psychotropic experimental drugs were used. The chapel, built by a patient in 1913, the old chapel remains a significant historical and eerie landmark on the site. Historical stigma and sightings. The Cuckoo's Nest stigma. Hospital directors have acknowledged that the facility's long history of housing the most ill patients has contributed to its haunted reputation, leading many filmmakers to request permission to shoot horror movies on site, requests which are consistently denied. Reported activity. While official accounts are rare, locals and former staff have reported hearing shuffling feet and seeing shadows in the hallways of the older buildings. Souris Valley Mental Health Hospital. The Souris Valley Mental Health Hospital, also known as the Weyburn Mental Hospital, was once the largest building in the British Commonwealth and is widely considered one of Canada's most haunted sites. Core ghost stories. The woman on the 4th floor. The most persistent legend involves a female spirit seen pacing the hallways of the 4th floor at night. Even after the building's demolition, some claim she is still seen in the windows of where the floor once stood. Phantom sounds. Visitors and former workers frequently reported the sound of shuffling feet, ghostly screams, and unexplained banging echoing through the unattended halls. The Hangman's Shack, a small, grim outbuilding near the river, was nicknamed the Hangman's Shack by locals. It featured a thick beam over a cement slab, and legend suggests patients used it to commit suicide to escape the hospital's conditions. Overwhelming emotions. Paranormal enthusiasts and locals often describe a sudden, crushing sense of sadness, anxiety, or anger when approaching the hospital grounds. The dark history powering the legends. The hauntings are often attributed to the hospital's history of experimental and controversial treatments. LSD experiments. In the 1950s, the facility was a hub for LSD research, where doctors and patients were given the drug to study alcoholism and schizophrenia. Extreme procedures. The hospital utilized insulin therapy, hydrotherapy, lobotomies, and electroshock therapy on difficult patients. Severe overcrowding. Built for 900 people, the hospital eventually housed approximately 2,500 patients at its peak, leading to deteriorating conditions. The building was completely demolished in 2009, and the site has since been redeveloped into a residential area called Riverwood, though many still consider the land itself to be cursed or tainted. The village of St. Louis, Saskatchewan is famous for the legend of the St. Louis Ghost Light, sometimes called the St. Louis Ghost Train, an unexplained light that appears along an abandoned railway line. The mysterious phenomenon has been a local fixture for decades and was even featured on the TV show Unsolved Mysteries in a 2014 Canada Post stamp. The legend. The most common story dates back to the 1920s and tells of a Canadian National Railway conductor who was struck and decapitated by a passing train while performing a routine track inspection. His body was never found, and the light is said to be the spirit of the headless conductor still searching for his lost head with a lantern. Witnesses often describe seeing a single, bright white light, which sometimes sways and is accompanied by a smaller red light, consistent with a train's headlamp and a conductor's lantern. Explanations and sightings. Persistent sightings. Many locals, including the village's former mayor, claim to have seen the light numerous times, even after the tracks were removed years ago. Skeptical theories. A popular scientific explanation, proposed by two high school students for a science fair project, is that the light is actually the refracted headlights of distant cars on a specific stretch of Highway 2. Local doubt. This theory is met with skepticism by some residents who claim the light was seen long before cars were common in the area, and others report seeing the light appear in ways inconsistent with vehicle headlights. The site of the phenomenon is now on private property, and trespassing is discouraged, though the light can reportedly be seen from the nearby grid road. St. Paul's Hospital in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, is widely considered the city's most haunted medical facility, with numerous ghost stories and reports of paranormal activity from staff and visitors alike. The hospital's history, founded by the Compassionate Grey Nuns in 1907, is often cited as the reason for the spiritual presence. Common ghost stories and phenomena. The benevolent nuns. The most frequently reported phenomena involve the spirits of nuns, often seen in traditional habits, in the basement and older sections of the hospital. They are described as benevolent, continuing their work of care. Nurses have shared stories of patients asking about the nun who checked on them during the night, even though no living nun was present. Mysterious sounds. Staff, particularly on night shifts, report hearing disembodied voices, conversations, and footsteps in empty corridors. These sounds are often described as comforting rather than disturbing, suggesting ongoing discussions about patient care. Moving objects. There are numerous accounts of doors opening and closing on their own throughout the facility. This activity has reportedly been captured on security camera footage and demonstrates that the spirits can interact with the physical environment. Specific haunted areas. Besides the basement, the second floor, which used to house the old operating rooms and the labor and delivery ward, is also mentioned as a highly active area. The former nurse's residence also has reports of children seeing grey nuns. St. John's Shrewsbury Anglican Church in Gore Ghost Story. The St. John's Shrewsbury Anglican Church in Gore, Quebec, Canada, became known as a ghost church due to a popular online rumor claiming the entire congregation committed mass suicide, which historians say never happened. This rumor stemmed from the church being mistakenly described online as a church in a ghost town, leading to a rise in ghost hunters and vandalism. The church's fate. Vandalism and deconsecration. The church and its adjacent cemetery were targeted by vandals for decades, leading to the theft of the bells and desecration of tombstones. Due to this persistent vandalism, the church was deconsecrated in a service on December 4, 2010, to cleanse the grounds of the craft of Satan and human malice. Destruction. On January 12, 2014, the church was completely destroyed by a fire, which authorities considered possible arson. Other St. John's ghost stories. While the Gore Church story is based on rumor and vandalism, other St. John's churches have their own specific ghost stories. Lady in Red. At a different haunted St. John's church, likely in England, the ghost of a heartbroken woman named Elizabeth Shaw is reportedly seen wandering the graveyard, searching for her lover. Fallen Mason. The Anglican Cathedral of St. John the Baptist in Newfoundland, Canada, has a photograph on display in its museum that reportedly includes the image of a stonemason who fell to his death during construction in the 1840s. Buried alive. In Shrewsbury, England, local legend has it that a man was mistakenly buried alive in St. Julian's churchyard and his groans